My name is Harper Lane. I'm 29 years old, and this is how I took revenge on the people who left me out of their perfect little wedding fantasy. It started with a scroll, a lazy Saturday morning, wrapped in my favorite old college hoodie, sipping lukewarm coffee and flipping through Instagram, half awake and not expecting my entire world to shift with one photo. But there it was, a golden filtered image of pure, curated betrayal. Madison and Claire, my two oldest friends, arms linked, veils flying, cheeks kissed by champagne and happiness, grinning with their husbands in matching tuxedos, and surrounded by a bridal party that looked like something out of a Pinterest board. I stared at it like it might vanish. I blinked. I scrolled. And then I realized I hadn't missed the post. I had missed the entire wedding. They never told me they were engaged, never mentioned a date, never said a word. At first, my brain scrambled to make excuses. Maybe it was a tiny elopement, a family-only thing? Maybe they meant to invite me and something got lost. But photo after photo told a different story. Bridesmaids in coordinated satin robes, champagne toasts with captioned inside jokes, table cards, speeches, a full-blown fairy tale wedding, one I'd always imagined being part of, because that's who we were, the trio. We had survived college breakups and late-night diner runs and job rejections, and heartbreaks, always side by side. I had pictured standing beside them, holding bouquets, tearing up during vows. But in their world, I wasn't even in the background, not even a blurry guest holding a glass of wine in a corner shot. I was nowhere, and then it hit me. They didn't forget. They chose. My stomach twisted in that quiet, private way heartbreak does when there's no one around to see it. The betrayal wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, polished, and deliberate. They curated a version of life that didn't include me, like I was a phase they had outgrown, like I didn't belong in the frame. And that image, that bridal party lined up in matching dresses, that's the one that gutted me, because I'd been there, not for the dress fittings or the venue tours, but before, when we used to plan our future weddings on dorm beds with cheap wine, saying how none of us would ever leave the others out. We had rules, pacts, promises, and now they'd rewritten the story without me. I could have cried. I could have messaged them. I could have pretended I was above it, but I knew better. This wasn't just a missed invitation. This was the culmination of every time they'd slowly started excluding me. The dinner plans I found out about after the fact, the "we thought you'd be busy" texts, the months between replies. I just hadn't seen the pattern until it slapped me in the face in white lace and peonies, and the worst part, they looked happy, complete, like they never even noticed I was gone. So no, I wasn't going to beg for an explanation. I wasn't going to ask why. I was going to show them exactly what it feels like to be erased, and make sure they never forgot it. Aaron and Jessica weren't just my friends. They were my people, my constants. We met during freshman orientation at NYU. 3 awkward girls trying to look like we weren't terrified. Aaron was the loud one, all confidence and sarcasm. Jessica was the soft-hearted mediator who cried at dog commercials and had a killer playlist for every mood. And me, I was the observer, the quiet one who held the camera during our dorm adventures and took mental notes. While they spilled secrets on our creaky twin beds, we clicked fast and hard, became inseparable by sophomore year, roommates by junior, soulmates in every way but romantic. We were bridesmaids together for 2 of our college friends, wore those hideous pastel dresses and laughed through the fittings. We took girls' trips every summer, Charleston, Austin, Tulum. I was always the planner, booking the Airbnb, color-coding the Google Docs, packing sunscreen for everyone because someone always forgot. I remembered birthdays. I sent handwritten notes during rough patches. I was the one with tissues and takeout after bad breakups, the first to show up and the last to leave. And even though I was the single one, the introvert, the one who never had a plus one, they made me feel like I was enough. We used to talk about our dream weddings, usually after too much red wine, legs tangled on the couch, imagining centerpieces and first dances and dresses we'd never afford. And we swore, every time, that no matter what happened, no one would ever be left out. It was a pact, a sacred one. We'd stand by each other, always, ride or die. But things started to shift after college, subtle at first. Erin moved in with her boyfriend, and suddenly weekends were tight. Jessica took a job at a PR firm that sucked the life out of her. I chalked it up to growing up. I didn't complain when they canceled brunch last minute or made plans I found out about from someone else's story. I told myself not to be sensitive, that they'd loop me in next time. I kept sending the texts, making the plans, laughing at the inside jokes that were no longer mine. Still, I didn't see the cracks. Or maybe I didn't want to by then. I was living modestly but honestly. I worked part-time as a junior editor at a small publishing house, the kind that still believed in paperbacks and debut authors. On the side, I did freelance photography, portraits, engagements, branding shoots. Not glamorous, but it paid enough. My apartment was small, but mine. My life was quiet, but I liked it. That's when I met Caleb. We crossed paths at a local gallery opening. He was doing event coverage for a client. I was there for background shots. He had a calm energy, the kind of presence that didn't ask for space but earned it anyway. Over time, we started sharing gigs, then coffees, then long walks between shoots. He noticed things about me that I never voiced out loud, like how I always offered to take the group photo so I wouldn't have to be in it, or how I deferred, constantly, letting others speak, take credit, take space. One day, after a shoot, he looked at me and said, "You treat yourself like a footnote, but you're the whole damn story." I laughed, but the words stuck. He was the first person in a long time who made me feel seen. And then came the ghosting. The final, polished betrayal. First, a missed dinner. Then a group trip to Lake Placid I only heard about through mutuals. I texted, got vague apologies. "Things have been crazy. We thought you were busy." I swallowed the lump in my throat and said I understood. But I didn't. Not really. And then, the Instagram post, Madison and Claire. The perfect wedding. Except this time it wasn't Madison or Claire. It was Erin and Jessica. White dresses, matching floral crowns. The same girls' trip poses we used to take. The same aesthetic I used to help them curate. Only this time, I wasn't behind the camera, or in front of it. I wasn't anywhere. They had married their long-term partners, had the celebration of their dreams. And somewhere along the way, they decided I didn't belong in that dream. No call, no explanation, just flowers in their hair, and smiles wide, like our friendship had been a placeholder. I sat there, phone in hand, trying to find a version of the story that didn't end like this. But there wasn't one. And Caleb, bless him, didn't try to spin it. He looked at the post, looked at me, and said, they knew exactly what they were doing. And suddenly, I knew what I had to do. It happened on a Sunday afternoon, the kind of lazy, overcast day that already made everything feel too quiet. I was flipping through my phone, procrastinating on editing a batch of client photos, when I saw it. A mutual friend, Mia, someone I hadn't spoken to in months but still followed out of polite nostalgia, had posted a story, a boomerang of champagne glasses clinking, followed by a sweeping shot of a white tent draped in fairy lights. Captioned * best wedding ever *. At first, I didn't register it. Just another summer wedding. But then I paused. The angle showed a familiar fountain, ivy-covered and grand. My stomach tightened. I knew that venue. I'd toured it with Erin just last year on a whim. Or so I thought. She said she wanted my opinion, that it was just for fun, and I had believed her. I tapped through the story. Another clip. This one of a slow dance. The bride in lace, her hair in soft waves. Then a second bride, beaming. Jessica and Erin, my best friends, my sisters in everything but blood, dancing together, hand in hand, wrapped in the applause of guests I didn't recognize. The audio was grainy, but someone in the background shouted, "To the brides." I froze. I couldn't breathe. I exited the story, shaking, and went straight to their pages. There they were, the professional photos, a full album of curated, glowy images, golden hour kisses, joyful tears, floral crowns, barefoot vows, Erin with her signature smirk, Jessica with her soft smile, both of them radiant, wrapped in a scene I had imagined for them 100 times, but never like this, never without me. One caption in particular stopped me cold. It was under a group photo, 10 girls in matching dresses, arms thrown around each other, laughing like they were the only people in the world. The caption read, * surrounded by our closest friends, the ones who've been there through everything. * I had to sit down. I stared at that photo for what felt like hours, waiting, somehow, for it to change, to glitch, to prove it wasn't what I thought. But it was. I wasn't in that photo. I wasn't anywhere. I hadn't been invited, not even informed. And somehow, that made it worse. This wasn't just a missed call or a forgotten name on a guest list. They had never planned to include me. This had been a choice, a premeditated exclusion. My hands were shaking as I called Jessica. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same. I called Erin. No answer. I left a message I instantly regretted. Voice raw, trying to sound composed. Trying not to beg for an explanation I didn't even know how to ask for. I opened my DMIS and typed a message to Jessica. Just one line. ***, you got married. ***, a few minutes passed. Then the typing bubble appeared. ***, it was a small thing. Please don't take it personally. ***, I stared at that message until the letters blurred. A small thing. I had held Jessica's hand while she cried about her dad's affair. I had helped Erin move apartments 3 times. Once in the middle of a snowstorm. We had matching tattoos. We had literal blood pacts. And now, apparently, I was just supposed to nod and accept that. I didn't make the cut. It wasn't just hurt. It was grief. Like something had been amputated and I hadn't even known it was gone until now. For days, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I kept seeing that phrase, closest friends, playing on a loop in my head like some cruel chant. I'd been erased. Quietly, cleanly, completely. As if I had never been there at all. The worst part, no one else seemed surprised. Not the mutuals who liked the photos. Not the comments congratulating the most beautiful couple with the best crew. It was like I was the only one who hadn't gotten the memo that my chapter had ended long ago, and that's when the spiral began to shift. At first, it was just bitterness, that sharp-edged, hot kind of anger that curls under grief like smoke. But then it started to take shape, a flicker of an idea, a voice in the back of my head saying, Asterisk, you were the planner. You were the one who remembered everything. You know them better than they think. Asterisk, they had chosen to cut me out like a stain on their perfect little canvas. Fine. I would show them what happens when the girl who knows all your secrets, the one you thought was too quiet to fight back, decides she's done being disposable. The days after the message. Asterisk, it was a small thing. Please don't take it personally. Asterisk. Felt like walking through fog with an open wound. I couldn't stop replaying everything. Every little moment where they'd made me feel like a third wheel. Like background noise. The times they'd made side jokes that I didn't understand, then brushed it off with you had to be there. The way Jessica had started responding to texts with one-word answers, or not at all. How Aaron once told me, half laughing, that I gave off only child energy, like you never expect to be anyone's favorite. At the time I laughed with her. I always laughed with them, even when it hurt, but now I saw it clearly. I hadn't missed the signs. I had ignored them. I'd assumed loyalty meant permanence. That just because we'd held each other through our worst years, we were bound together for the best ones. I couldn't let it go. I started asking quiet questions, not the kind that scream betrayal, but the kind you slip into casual texts. Hey, did you go to the wedding too? Here. How was it? There. Mutuals responded vaguely. Most didn't know what to say. One, a kind soul from our college dorm days, finally responded with a screen recording of the full wedding post and a single message. Asterisk, honestly, there were over 100 people. It was huge. I thought you were there. Asterisk, over 100 guests. Small thing. My ass. They hadn't excluded me because there wasn't room. They had excluded me because they didn't want me there. They'd chosen to remove me from the most important moment of their lives. The moment we'd once dreamed up together, and had done so with surgical silence. The betrayal settled deeper into my chest, hard and cold. My mood swung like a pendulum. 1 minute, I was crying on my bathroom floor. The next, I was making a list in my notes app of every time they'd made me feel replaceable. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was humiliated. It wasn't just that I'd been left out. It was that everyone else had watched the show while I stood outside the theater, not even realizing I didn't have a ticket. Caleb noticed. Of course he did. He always did. You've been quiet, he said one evening, sliding a coffee across the table toward me at our usual cafe. I shrugged. He waited. Then he leaned in and said, You know you deserve better friends, right? Not quieter pain. I swallowed hard. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Then he pulled out his phone and opened Instagram. Look at this, he said. It was a photo from a wedding photographer's account. The kind of luxe, editorial style photography you'd expect to see in Vogue weddings. The angle was unmistakable. A soft focus kiss, a cathedral veil, champagne spray in golden light, and tagged in the caption, Aaron and Jessica. Not just tagged, featured, praised. A dream couple to capture. A day we'll never forget. My stomach dropped. I recognized the photographer, Nate Sterling, a big name in the industry, sought after, booked out for years, and the same guy Caleb had interned with last year. You know him? I whispered. Caleb nodded. I still talk to him. He owes me a favor. I blinked at him. My brain was already racing, connecting dots faster than I could process. You want revenge? Caleb said, reading my silence. Then let's do it smart. The next day, I met Nate at his studio. It was sleek, all white walls and natural light. He was cordial but distracted, busy editing a client's Paris elopement. I waited for the right moment, then told him the truth. Well, the shaped truth. I'm trying to build my portfolio, I said. I've done engagement shoots, family portraits, small weddings, but I want to grow. I know I can handle luxury clients. I just need experience. He raised an eyebrow. I'm not asking for a paycheck, I added quickly. Just let me shoot behind the scenes during one of your next destination gigs. I'll edit the raws for free. Quietly. You don't even have to credit me. He studied me for a long moment, then finally nodded. You can come to Tulum. 2 months out. Big post-wedding shoot for a couple who just got married in New York. They want a weekend shoot to celebrate with friends. Should be a vibe. He showed me the brief. And there they were, Aaron, Jessica. My heart stopped. Of course they were doing a second celebration. Destination shoot. Another curated fantasy. This time on the beaches of Tulum. The final page of their wedding storybook. I held my face neutral, nodded. Professional. Sounds great, I said. When I got back to the car, I didn't speak. Caleb didn't push. We drove in silence until he finally looked over and smirked. Guess who just booked a front row seat? He said. With a camera. I didn't smile. I wasn't there yet. But something inside me settled. Not revenge. Not yet. But clarity. A plan forming like a photograph developing in a dark room. They'd built a story without me. They'd tried to write me out. But I wasn't gone, and now I was going to capture everything. TULUM was a dream. At least from the outside. The palm trees swayed like they were rehearsed. The beach was lined with flickering lanterns and imported orchids. Every detail manicured down to the color palette of the ocean. Aaron and Jessica floated through it all like goddesses, draped in ivory, champagne glasses in hand, surrounded by women in matching linen and men who knew how to pose. And there I was, invisible, as I had learned to be, hair pulled back, camera steady, smile polite. I didn't flinch when Jessica brushed past me without recognition. I didn't blink when Aaron laughed at some inside joke I once would have known. They had no idea I was anyone other than a background blur. And I used that. I watched them pose. Under golden light, fake laugh for the drone footage. Giggle into cocktails with hands just a little too posed to be spontaneous. But I didn't just shoot the obvious. I caught the glances, the shifts. Jessica whispering to another bridesmaid, mouth curled in disapproval over someone's dress. Erin rolling her eyes behind a margarita as her new in-laws gave a toast. A quiet, tense conversation between Erin and her ex-boyfriend. Just a little too close, just a little too long. And the way she touched his wrist before walking away. I captured it all. Not staged. Not polished. Just truth. Frame by frame. I flew home and got to work. Every click of my mouse another heartbeat of quiet. Calculated release. I edited to sets of photos. The first, pristine, the kind-eyed. Be proud to hand over to Nate, my mentor, the version they paid for. But the second was mine. Raw. Honest. The silent unraveling of a perfect day. I packaged that one anonymously. Carefully selected, beautifully shot, dripping with context. And then I sent it. airdropped it at their farewell brunch to half the phones on the guest list, emailed it to Jessica's cousin with the dramatic flair, forwarded it to Erin's new sister-in-law, the one she'd mocked over dinner. Subject line, asterisk unfiltered, real love, real friendship, asterisk no sender name, no trace, just clarity. And then I waited. It didn't take long. The whispers started that afternoon. A passive-aggressive comment under a photo, a deleted Instagram post. One bridesmaid unfollowed Jessica, then another. By the end of the week, someone had leaked a few shots to a snarky wedding blog. The comment section became a battleground. Erin's new husband apparently didn't know about the beach conversation with her ex until he did. And Jessica, let's just say her carefully polished friend group, began to crack at the edges. Group chats imploded, stories got pulled, and all the curated magic of that wedding began to dissolve, replaced by rumors, side eyes, and uncomfortable questions. No one could trace it back to me. I hadn't lied. I hadn't manipulated. I had simply revealed. And the cracks they tried so hard to hide, they did the rest. Harper didn't wait for the chaos. She didn't track the whispers or refresh social media to watch the fallout unfold. She didn't need to. The truth had its own rhythm, and she trusted it to echo exactly where it needed to. Instead, she blocked both Erin and Jessica, deleted their numbers, and cleared the group photos from her favorites folder like closing a book whose ending had finally been written. Her world became quiet, but not the kind of lonely she used to fear, the kind of quiet that meant peace. She poured herself into her work, mornings editing by the window, afternoons shooting golden hour sessions, nights spent with Caleb talking about color grading and light theory over wine. Her voice stayed calm, even in her own head. I didn't break anything, she told herself, and sometimes even said aloud. I just showed the truth. And sometimes truth does the rest. Nate, the photographer she once idolized, now referred clients to her. She sees things others miss, he told one luxury bride, who later booked Harper for an entire weekend. Word spread. She stopped doing favors and started charging what her eye was worth. Her calendar filled faster than she could process. Shoots in California, Arizona, a destination elopement in Greece. Caleb helped her build a real portfolio, even shot her new headshots. No more backup plan energy, he'd said. You're the main story now. And she believed him. Slowly, for the first time, she started to believe she could be chosen, not as an afterthought, not as support, but for her vision, her voice, her worth. Then one day, the email came from Jessica. Subject line, asterisk did you send those photos? Asterisk no greeting, no apology, just 5 words, heavy with implication. Harper stared at it for a long time, unread. Her heart didn't race. Her hands didn't shake. The answer was obvious, but not because she owed it. She hadn't done